All right, it's no secret men and women think differently, duh, right?
Yeah.
She stops for directions, he keeps driving, she talks about feelings, he talks about food.
And all this week we're celebrating the differences between men and women. So today, 5 reasons why thinking like a man can pay off for women. Therapist Julie Hanks is here. You say women can learn from men's strengths in this.
Definitely, and men and women are different, but not, like you mentioned before, not all men think like a man. so there's some great research. Simon, Baron, Cohen at Cambridge found that men have what's a systemizing brain and women have an empathizing brain. But 17% of men have an empathizing brain, and 17% of women have a systemizing brain.
So it can blend. It's not just one or the other.
Yeah. So nothing's hard and fast, but our experience shows us that men and women do approach things differently in general. And there are some benefits of thinking like a man.
Generally speaking, what are those benefits? I know we're going to go through some specifically, but generally speaking, what are those benefits?
Well, so thinking like a systemizer, which is the male kind of way of thinking about things, is trying to figure out how things work, solving problems, kind of moving through things. So women in general tend to get caught up in the emotions and reading people and how's this going to impact my relationships. And men can kind of move through things. And there are times when that is an advantage to kind of make a decision,
like
move forward.
Is exhausting. I mean, when you really spell it out like that.
Sometimes it is. And maybe we should do another segment sometime of how men can think more like women, because there are situations where that is crucial.
Okay, so you've nailed down 5 different areas, specific areas, on how women can think more like a man, how we can learn from that. Let's start with be decisive. That's the first one right there.
Decisive, and we kind of touched on that already, but men, a problem shared generally is a problem to be solved, right? So it's like, okay, they have a problem, they solve it, they make a decision and move on. Women tend to get caught up in the emotion of it, and oh, is it the right decision? What should I do? And so a way to kind of think more like a man in decision making is give yourself a time limit. So you don't want to drag it on and on. Go, okay, I need to make this decision. I'm not going to talk to 500 friends. I'm going to just ask 5 friends, make a decision.
So you say by the end of the day I'm going to have a decision, or by the end of the week?
Exactly. And I have a really...
Or by the end of the month, right? For those of us who take a little bit longer.
The end of the week.
Dang, that's a little bit of pressure there, you know?
But to have a time limit so it doesn't drag on. And I have a dear friend who it took her 5 years to pick out a dining room table. She didn't want to make the wrong choice. She didn't want to waste money. She didn't want to have regrets after. She wanted her husband to like it too. So if she had put 30 days, she'd have, she would have had a table 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Okay, the next one. Limit. Women struggle moving on, you say, after making a mistake.
Yeah.
Men don't as much.
Because it's emotional, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's back to that systemizing and empathizing. Patricia Bryans at Northumbria University was studying mistakes in the workplace, and she wasn't even looking at gender differences, but what she found is that men told neat and tidy stories that portrayed themselves in a positive light and without a lot of emotion. Where women were like, it was detailed, complicated, and they were still regretting and having a lot of emotion about this mistake in the workplace. And I think that's interesting research and can apply to all areas, that men can kind of just sum it up. Like, okay, well that happened, I learned from this. So the way to think more like a man is to think of your mistakes as learning experiences and simplify your story about them.
Does this actually pertain like to relationships and that stuff as well?
It does, and in my clinical practice I've found, especially, I don't know why, but in talking about past divorces, men are like, yeah, she just freaked out, it didn't work out, done, right? Or yeah, we just decided we didn't want to be together. Women, I hear more of like, years later they're still trying to figure out what went wrong, and if maybe I'd said this, and if he had done this, and so I have a particular client I helped to simplify her story. Like, my husband wanted to be with someone else. That was that.
Moving on.
And yeah, and it's like, and I asked her, do you want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with you? Let's package that up neatly, learn from it, and move on.
And that applies in so many different life scenarios. Simplify the story, let it go, move on.
And it kind of takes the some of that emotion that kind of keeps us ruminating about
I love
it.
That.
We move to the next one, which I think men do really, really, really well. Making sex a priority, right?
I think I'm going to get fan mail because of this one, right? Yes, I love this quote. Men are willing as long as they're able, and women are able as long as they're willing. A colleague of mine shared that, and I'm like, that is perfect. It's like for men, sex can move up to the top of the list like that. For women, it's like, oh, but I've got to do this, this, and this, and the dishes need to be done, and
So how do you change that mindset?
So what I suggest is put it at the top of the list 1 day a week.
That's your number one. That's your priority.
And just for women out there, if it pops up to the top of the list on other days, that's fine too, but at least make sure it's there 1 day a list.
Minimum 1 day a week. Is that okay?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so 1 day a week. And I've worked with several couples where the husband comes in heartbroken because he feels so rejected in the bedroom. His wife doesn't desire him that way. And this has really helped to say, okay, 1 day a week, wife, it's your job to initiate, to plan for it, think about it, put it at the top of the list. And there are also, really good personal health benefits to having an active sex life, and your husband will be really happy and feel more loved and attractive to you, which is a great relational benefit as well.
Your relationship will grow. I want to talk about this next one moving forward a bit, because I did raise half an eyebrow. I trust you, Julie. I want to hear your explanation on it. Women can benefit from worrying less about other people's feelings. I cringe at that one just a little.
Why?
It feels like that should be a priority. Yeah, it feels a little harsh.
Okay, but worrying is different than being aware of.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Worrying is like taking emotional time and thought for something you can't control.
It's kind of non-progressive. It just...
Right. So being aware of other people's emotions is an important social skill, right? But getting caught in that is counterproductive. And I think men are better at not caring so much or not feeling so responsible for other people's feelings.
We care, but we might not worry as much. Let me jump to your last one really quickly. To take things at face value, which I think a lot of men do, and sometimes women read a lot of stuff into it, right?
Definitely. And I have a pet peeve about this for women. Sometimes women will, I had a friend say, "Can you watch my kids?" And I said, "Yeah, that sounds good." And she says, "Are you sure? Are you sure it's not too inconvenient?" "Oh, I'm really sorry to, And I'm like, "No, I said yes. I mean yes." So I've really worked on thinking more like a man in that. Like, I trust that people will say what they mean. And, I mean what I say. When I say yes, I mean yes. When I say no, I mean no. So sticking to the facts and actually what people said instead of reading between the lines and trying to decipher the hidden meanings. A lot of times there's not a hidden meaning, and if there is, it's the person's job to actually make it explicit and tell you.
And all of these things move forward. They move conversations forward. They move relationships forward. They move life forward. So it's about a progression, really.
Definitely.
Fabulous insight, Julie. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
See, we knew we men were thinking right all along. You can look for more of Julie's article on how to think like a man. She's also included a fun little brain test to see how your brain works. You can go to our website, studio5.ksl.com, to take that test.
We'll be right back with more on Studio 5. Stay with us.